Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Health Sciences, SOHS. Certificate in General Duty Assistance, CGDA. BHT 002 Basic Needs of Patient Care. Block 1 Patient Hygiene. Unit 4 Eye, Ear Care, Skin, Nail and Foot Care. 4.0 Objectives. After completion of this unit, you will be able to explain eye and ear care procedure, explain the use and maintenance of hearing and visual aids, describe skin and nail care, discuss about the procedure for feet and hands care, and explain the use of a safety or an electric razor. 4.1 Introduction. As you have learnt in theory of present block that grooming and personal hygiene is important to prevent infection and diseases and also make a person comfortable and confident. Hygienic practices include caring for the skin, hair, nail, mouth and other body parts. Hospitalized and bedridden people need special attention to avoid skin breakdown and other complication. Inadequate practices can contribute to alteration in a person's health. Following sections of present unit will help you in learning about care of eyes, ear, skin and foot care. 4.2 Care of eyes. The eye is a delicate organ, highly susceptible to infection and injury. For maximal safety for the patient, the equipment, solutions, and ointments introduced into the conjunctival sac should be sterile. The medicine should be given as per doctor's prescription. 4.2.1 Eye care. Eye care is required to clean the eyes before the use of eye drops, to care the eye in case of irritation, to prevent corneal abrasion in the unconscious or sedated person. USGDA have to assist doctors or nursing officer in providing eye care to patient. Guidelines for preparing the equipment needed for eye care. You may need to arrange following: A. Clean trolley. B. Sterile dressing packs inclusive of gallipart, gauze swab and disposable towel or napkins as per instructions of nursing officer. C. Sterile 0.9% sodium chloride. D. Sterile gloves. A. Eye drops, as prescribed by ophthalmologist. F. Sufficient amount of light into the room. G. Disposable garbage bag. Guidelines for preparation of patient for ear care. The patient must sit or lie keeping his/her head tilted backwards and chin must point in upward direction. This facilitates easy accessibility to the eyes and makes up to be a good position for caregivers in treating and for patient's comfort. 1. Explain the procedure to the patient. 2. The bed area must be clean to enable movement around the bed freely and ensure that you have all the equipment handy and there is no further need of leaving the patient in the middle of the treatment. 3. Patient should be in comfortable position. 4. Ensure sufficient amount of light in the room. 5. Patient's privacy should be ensured. 6. Hand hygiene should be taken care of. Disposable towel should be placed around the neck of the patient. 7. Patient's eyelids have to be closed to prevent cornea damage. 8. Using a gauze swab, dampened in 0.9% solution, gently clean from the inwards, nasal corner, to outwards. New swab should be used every time until all crust and discharge is removed. 9. The procedure has to be repeated for other eye too. 10. Patient's eye has to be dried of excess fluid. 11. The disposable equipment are to be disposed and patient's comfort has to be taken care of. 12. Hand hygiene is to be carried out. 13. If required, eye drops or eye ointments are to be given as prescribed, and their expiry date has to be checked before giving to the patient. 14. Patient is to be given prior warning that he/she has to report if any irritation or itching is there after eye drop. 15. Always put the date on eye drop when its seal has been opened, as we should not use eye ointment after 1 month of it opening. 4.2.2 Eye drop installation. Eye drops are used mainly for their local effects, such as for pupil dilation or constriction when examining the eye, for infection treatment, or for controlling intraocular pressure, for patients with glaucoma. The type and amount of solution depend on the purpose of the installation. The eye is a delicate organ, highly susceptible to infection and injury. Although the eye is never free of microorganisms, the secretions of the conjunctiva protect against many pathogens. For safety of the patient, the equipment, solutions, and ointments introduced into the conjunctival sac should be sterile. Articles required: gloves, personal protective equipment, if indicated, medication as ordered by the doctor, tissues, normal saline, washcloth, cotton balls, or gauze piece. Inform nursing officer and document the administration of the medication. Procedure, action and rationale. Gather equipment as per nursing officer instructions. Helps to avoid interruptions during procedure and prevents errors that may have occurred when orders were transcribed. Perform hand hygiene, prevents the spread of microorganisms. Assist nursing officer in preparation of medication for administration in the medication area. Check expiration dates, facilitates error-free administration. Saves time and prevents errors in medication administration. Transport medications to the patient's bedside carefully and keep the medications in sight at all times. Careful handling and close observation prevent accidental or deliberate disarrangement of medications. Ensure that the patient receives the medications at the correct time. For maximum effect of the medicine, perform hand hygiene and put on PAY, if indicated, prevent the spread of microorganisms. PAY is required based on transmission precautions. Identify the patient, check the name and identification number on the patient's identification band. Ask the patient to state his or her name. If the patient cannot identify him or herself, verify the patient's identification with a staff member who knows the patient. Ensures the right patient receives right medications and prevent errors. This is the most reliable method. Do not use the name on the door or over the bed. Provides an additional check to ensure that the medication is given to the right patient. Ask the patient about allergies. Explain the purpose and action of each medication to the patient. A prerequisite to administration of medications. A prerequisite to administration of medications. Put on gloves. Gloves protect from potential contact with mucous membranes and body fluids. Offer tissue to patient. Solution and tears may spill from the eye during the procedure. Cleanse the eyelids and eyelashes, any drainage, with a washcloth. Cotton balls or gauze piece moistened with normal saline solution. Use each area of the cleaning surface once, moving from the inner toward the outer canthus. Debris can be carried into the eye. When the conjunctival sac is exposed, using each area of the gauze once and moving from the inner canthus to the outer canthus. Prevents carrying debris to the lacrimal ducts, thus prevent infection to lacrimal duct. Tilt the patient's head back slightly if sitting, or place the patient's head over a pillow if lying down. The head may be turned slightly to the affected side to prevent solution or tears from owing toward the opposite eye. Tilting patient's head back slightly makes it easier to reach the conjunctival sac. Pillow should be avoided if the patient has a cervical spine injury. Turning the head to the affected side helps to prevent solution or tears from owing toward the opposite eye. Remove the cap from the medication bottle, being careful not to touch the inner side of the cap. Touching the inner side of the cap may contaminate the bottle of medication. Instruct patient to look up and focus on something on the ceiling. Place thumb or two fingers near margin of lower eyelid, immediately below eyelashes, and exert pressure downward over bony prominence of cheek. Lower conjunctival sac is exposed as lower lid is pulled down. By having the patient look up and focus on something else, the procedure is less traumatic and keeps the eye still. Hold dropper close to eye, but avoid touching eyelids or lashes. Squeeze container and allow prescribed number of drops to fall in lower conjunctival sac. Touching the eye, eyelids, or lashes can contaminate the medication in the bottle. The eye drop should be placed in the conjunctival sac, not directly on the eyeball. Release lower lid after eye drops are instilled. Ask patient to close eyes gently. This allows the medication to be distributed over the entire eye. Apply gentle pressure over inner canthus to prevent eye drops from owing into tear duct. This minimizes the risk of systemic effects from the medication. Instruct patient not to rub affected eye. This prevents injury and irritation to eye. Remove gloves. Assist patient to a comfortable position. This ensures patient comfort. Remove additional PAY if used. Perform hand hygiene. Removing PAY properly reduces the risk for infection transmission and contamination of other items. Hand hygiene prevents the spread of microorganisms. Report to nursing officer and document the administration of the medication immediately after administration. Timely documentation helps to ensure patient safety. Observe the patient's response to medication within appropriate time frame. The patient needs to be evaluated for therapeutic and adverse effects from the medication immediately after the procedure, including date, time, dose, route of administration, and site of administration, specifically right, left, or both. Eyes, on the record. Prun medications require documentation of the reason for administration. Prompt recording avoids the possibility of accidentally repeating the administration of the drug. If the drug was refused or omitted, inform this also to notify the nursing officer. This verifies the Reason medication was omitted and ensures that the nursing officer is aware of the patient's condition. 4.2.3 Eye ointment administration. Follow medication order and the patient's chart for allergies under supervision of nursing officer. As nursing officer know the actions, special nursing considerations, safe dose ranges, purpose of administration, and adverse effects of the medications to be administered. Perform hand hygiene. Prepare medicine for administration in the medication area under supervision of nursing officer. Transport medications and equipment to the patient's bedside carefully, and keep the medications in sight at all times. Perform hand hygiene and put on PAY, if indicated. The patient should be identified using proper method. Provide privacy. Nursing officer may complete necessary assessments before administering medications. Put on gloves. Offer the patient a tissue. Cleanse the eyelids and eyelashes of any drainage with cotton balls or gauze piece moistened with normal saline solution. Use each area of the gauze once, moving from the inner toward the outer canthus. Instruct patient to look up and focus on something on the ceiling. Place thumb or two fingers near margin of lower eyelid immediately below eyelashes and exert pressure downward over bony prominence of cheek. Lower conjunctival sac is exposed as lower lid is pulled down. Hold the ointment tube close to eye, but avoid touching eyelids or lashes. Squeeze container and apply about 1 inch of ointment from the tube along the exposed sac. Apply the medication moving from the inner canthus to the outer canthus. Twist tube to break off ribbon of ointment. Do not touch the tip to the eye. Release lower lid after ointment is instilled. Ask patient to close eyes gently. The warmth helps to liquefy the ointment. Instruct the patient to move the eye, because this helps to spread the ointment under the lids and over the surface of the eyeball. Assist the patient to a comfortable position. Explain that the ointment may temporarily blur vision. Encourage the patient not to rub the eye. Remove gloves and additional PAY, if used. Perform hand hygiene. Document medication administration immediately after the procedure. Evaluate the patient's response to medication within appropriate time frame. Safety. 1. Care should be taken for avoiding cross-infection. 2. Hands should be washed properly and gloves should be worn. 3. The eyes should be cleaned from inner corner, nasal corner, towards outward direction. 4. The procedure should always begin with cleaner eye and new swab should be used for each eye. 4.2.4 Eye irrigation. The main purpose of eye irrigation is to remove secretions or foreign bodies or to cleanse and soothe the eye. When irrigating one eye, care should be taken to prevent overflowing. Irrigation feared does not contaminate the other eye. Articles required. Sterile irrigation solution, warm to 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Sterile irrigation set, sterile container and irrigating or bulb syringe. Emesis basin, kidney tray, or irrigation basin. Washcloth, waterproof pad or Macintosh towel. Disposable gloves. Additional PAY, as indicated. Medication administration record. Procedure will be performed by doctor or nursing officer. Your duty will be to assist them in procedure. Action and rationale. Gather equipment as advised by nursing officer, helps to avoid interruptions during procedure and prevents errors that may have occurred when orders were transcribed. Perform hand hygiene and put on PAY, if indicated. Hand hygiene and PAY prevent the spread of microorganisms. PAY is required based on transmission. Precautions. Identify the patient. Check the name and identification number on the patient's identification band. Ask the patient to state his or her name. If the patient cannot identify him or herself, verify the patient's identification with a staff member who knows the patient. Ensures the right patient receives right medications and prevent errors. This is the most reliable method. Do not use the name on the door or over the bed. Provides an additional check to ensure that the medication is given to the right patient. Explain procedure to patient to facilitates cooperation and reassures patient. Assemble equipment at patient's bedside for an organized approach to the task. Have patient sit or lie with head tilted toward side of affected eye. Protect patient and bed with a waterproof pad or Macintosh. This help of irrigation solution away from unaffected eye and from the inner canthus of the affected eye toward the outer canthus. Put on gloves. Clean lids and lashes with washcloth moistened with normal saline or the solution ordered for the irrigation. Wipe from inner canthus to outer canthus. Use a different corner of washcloth with each wipe. Gloves protect from contact with mucous membranes, body fluids, and contaminants. Materials lodged on Lids or in lashes may be washed into eye. This cleaning motion protects nasolacrimal duct and other eye. Placekidney right cheek on the side of the affected eye to receive irrigating solution. If patient is able, ask him or her to support the basin. Prevent soiling of the linen. Expose lower conjunctival sac and hold upper lid open with your non-dominant hand. Solution is directed into lower conjunctival sac because the cornea is sensitive and easily injured. This also prevents reuse blinking. Fill the irrigation syringe with the prescribed fluid. Hold irrigation syringe about 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch from eye. Direct flow of solution from inner to outer canthus along conjunctival sac. This minimizes the risk for injury to the cornea. Directing solution toward the outer canthus helps to prevent the spread of contamination from the eye to the lacrimal sac, the lacrimal duct, and the nose. Irrigate until the solution is clear or all the solution has been used. Use only enough force to remove secretions gently from the conjunctiva. Avoid touching any part of the eye with the irrigating tip. Directing solutions with force may cause injury to the tissues of the eye as well as to the conjunctiva. Touching the eye is uncomfortable for the patient and may cause damage to the cornea. Pause irrigation and have patient close the eye periodically during procedure. Movement of the eye when the lids are closed helps to move secretions from the upper to the lower conjunctival sac. Dry periorbital area after irrigation with gauze sponge. Offer a towel to the patient if face and neck are wet. Leaving the skin moist after irrigation is uncomfortable for the patient. Remove gloves. Assist the patient to a comfortable position. This ensures patient comfort. Remove additional pay if used. Perform hand hygiene. Removing pay properly reduces the risk for infection transmission and contamination of other items. Hand hygiene prevents the spread of microorganisms. Evaluate the patient's response to medication within appropriate time frame. The patient needs to be evaluated for therapeutic and adverse effects from the medication. 4.2.5 Maintenance of visual aids. Consider the following point for care of visual aids. Always keep glasses clean and smudge free to prevent scratches. Store them in a hard box when not in use. Use microfiber cloth to clean glasses as it clear grease and dirt. Don't wipe glasses with tissue, clothes and paper towel to avoid scratches. Contact lenses. Contact lenses are a convenient way to correct vision without wearing glasses. It is important to keep them always clean to prevent infection to eyes. Always clean hands with mild soap and water before handling contact lenses. Avoid using sanitizers and other lotions which may irritate eyes. Use lint-free towel to dry hands. Open one side of the contact lens case at a time to avoid mixing up. Both eyes may not have same power, and place the lens in the appropriate side of contact lens case. Help patient to make a habit of taking out the lens in the same order each night. Use suction cup to remove rigid contact lens. Rinse suction cup with contact lens solution after each use. Check lens for any damage before use because lenses are soft. It may get torn easily, especially around the edges, which cause irritation and also allow microorganisms to collect in the damaged spot. Always clean contact lenses using the solution provided for them, not with water and other solution. Soak lens overnight, at least 6 hours, with the solution provided for them to disinfect. Rigid lens need more soaking time. Change lens according to doctor's order. Refill contact lens case with fresh solution each time. Never top off the lens case. Sterilize case daily using contact solution and allow to air dry. Follow manufacturer's instruction. Ask patient to switch to a new case every 3 months, or as recommended, sterilize case by boiling it at least once every 3 months as an alternative method. Avoid placing contact lenses on hard surface. Always keep them in a hard shell case, which is fit for the lens to prevent damage. Eyeglasses. Eyeglasses can be cleaned with soap and water as well as with eyeglass cleaner. Soap and water. Run a gentle stream of tap water over glasses. Rotate them to wet both sides of each lens, the frame, and earpieces. Hot water is bad for lenses, protective coatings, and the frame, so be sure to use warm water. Add a small drop of mild soap to each lens. Make gentle circular motions with fingertips to lather the soap over both sides of the lenses, around the frame, and down each earpiece. Clean the nose pads with a cotton swab or soft toothbrush. Use gentle pressure to scrub the nose pads and the crevice between them and the frame. Use only soft bristled toothbrush. Avoid grazing the lenses with a Toothbrush, even if it's soft bristled. Use cotton swab to clean between the lenses and the frame. Hold the glasses under running water again to rinse away soap. Shake off excess water and make sure your lenses are clean. Dry glasses with a microfiber cloth. Use soft circular motions with your fingertips to dry it. Repeat on the other lens. Eyeglass cleaner. Spray glasses liberally with eyeglass cleaner. Wipe away the cleaner with a microfiber cloth. Eyeglasses also can be cleaned with wet wipes. Gently rub them with a wet wipe using soft, circular motions. After cleaning them, dry them with a microfiber cloth. Prosthetic, false eyes. A person who has had an eye removed due to illness or disease may wear prosthetic, false eyes. Prosthetic eyes are custom made for the person and can be very expensive to replace. If a person in your care has a prosthetic eye and needs help caring for it, the nurse will show you how to assist the person with removing, cleaning and reinserting the prosthesis. It is important to care for the prosthetic eye properly to prevent injury to the eye socket and eyelid. Always handle a prosthetic eye carefully and with clean hands. 4.3 Ear care. 4.3.1 Ear drop installation. Drugs are instilled into the auditory canal for their local effect. They are used to soften wax, relieve pain, apply local anesthesia, and treat infections. The tympanic membrane separates the external ear from the middle ear. Normally, it is intact and closes the entrance to the middle ear completely. If it is ruptured or has been opened by surgical intervention, the middle ear and the inner ear have a direct passage to the external ear. When this occurs, perform installations with the greatest of care to prevent forcing materials from the outer ear into the middle ear and the inner ear. Use sterile technique to prevent infection. Articles required. Medication, warmed to 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, dropper. Tissue. Cotton ball, optional. Gloves. Additional pay, as indicated. Washcloth, optional. Normal saline solution. Assess the affected ear for redness, erythema, edema, drainage, or tenderness. Assess the patient for allergies. Verify patient name, dose, route, and time of administration. Assess the patient's knowledge of medication and procedure. Assess the patient's ability to cooperate with the procedure. Guidelines for ear drop installation. Action and rationale. Gather equipment as per nursing officer. Advice. Helps to identify errors that may have occurred when orders were transcribed. Perform hand hygiene. Prevents the spread of microorganisms. Assist nursing officer in PR pairing. Medicine for administration in the medication area. Prepare medications for one patient at a time. Facilitates error-free administration and saves time. Assist in selection the proper medication from the patient's medication drawer or unit stock. Read and compare the label with the order. This prevents errors in medication. Transport medications to the patient's bedside carefully and keep the medications in sight at all times. Careful handling and close observation prevent accidental or deliberate disarrangement of medications. Ensure that the patient receives the medications at the correct time. For maximum benefit, perform hand hygiene and put on pay. If indicated, hand hygiene and pay prevent the spread of microorganisms. Pay is required based on transmission. Precautions. Identify the patient. Check the name and identification number on the patient's identification band. Ask the patient to state his or her name. If the patient cannot identify him or herself, verify the patient's identification with a staff member who knows the patient. Ensures the right patient receives right medications and prevent errors. This is the most reliable method. Do not use the name on the door or over the bed. Provides an additional check to ensure that the medication is given to the right patient. Ask the patient about allergies. Explain the purpose and action of each medication to the patient, a prerequisite to administration of medications. Put on gloves. Gloves protect from potential contact with contaminants and body fluids. Cleanse external ear of any drainage with cotton ball or washcloth. Moistened with normal saline. Debris and drainage may prevent some of the medication from entering the ear canal. Place patient on his or her unaffected side in bed, or, if ambulatory, have patient sit with head well tilted to the side so that affected ear is uppermost. Maximum benefit of the drug. Prevents the drops from escaping from the ear. Draw up the amount of solution needed in the dropper. Do not return excess medication to stock bottle. Risk for contamination is increased when medication is returned to the stock bottle. Straighten auditory canal by pulling cartilaginous portion of pinna up and back for an adult. Helps to straighten the canal properly. For ear drop installation, hold dropper in the ear with its tip above the auditory canal. Do not touch the dropper to the ear. Allow drops to fall on the side of the canal. Most of the medication will enter the ear canal. Touching the dropper to the ear contaminates the dropper and medication. It is uncomfortable for the patient if the drops fall directly onto the tympanic membrane. Release pinner after instilling drops and have patient maintain the position to prevent escape of medication. Medication should remain in ear canal for at least 5 minutes. Gently press on the tragus a few times, allows medication from the canal to move toward the tympanic membrane. Loosely insert a cotton ball into the ear canal. If ordered, a cotton ball can help prevent medication from leaking out of ear canal. Remove gloves. Assist the patient to a comfortable position. Removing PEI properly reduces the risk for infection transmission and contamination of other items. Remove additional PEI if used. Perform hand hygiene. Prevents the spread of microorganisms. Reports to nursing officer and document the administration of the medication immediately after. Timely documentation helps to ensure patient safety. Evaluate the patient's response to medication within appropriate time frame. The patient needs to be evaluated for therapeutic and adverse effects from the medication. Document the administration of the medication immediately after administration, including date, time, dose, route of administration, and site of administration. Specifically right, left, or both ears on the record. Prompt medications require documentation of the reason for administration. Prompt recording avoids the possibility of accidentally repeating the administration of the drug. If the drug was refused or omitted, record this in the appropriate area on the medication record and notify the primary care provider. This varies the reason medication was omitted and ensures that the primary care provider is aware of the patient's condition. For infant and children, pull pinner straight back for a child older than 3 years and down and back for an infant or a child younger than 3 years. Distraction techniques, such as TV or a quiet toy, may be helpful when attempting to keep a child quiet for 5 minutes. 4.3.2 Ear irrigation. Irrigations of the external auditory canal are ordinarily performed for cleaning purposes or for applying heat to the area. Typically, normal saline solution is used, although an antiseptic solution may be indicated for local action. To prevent pain, the irrigation solution should be at least room temperature. Usually, an irrigation syringe is used. However, an irrigating container with tubing and an air tip may also be used, especially if the purpose of the irrigation is to apply heat to the area. Articles required. Prescribed irrigating solution, warm to 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, irrigation set, container and irrigating or bulb syringe. Waterproof pad or Macintosh, emesis basin, kidney tray, cotton-tipped applicators, disposable gloves, additional PEI, as indicated, cotton balls. Ear irrigation procedure will be done by doctors. Your duty will be to assist them. Action and rationale. Gather equipment as per nursing officer. Advice. Helps to identify errors that may have occurred when orders were transcribed. Perform hand hygiene. Assist in preparation medicine for administration in the medication area. Prepare medications for one patient at a time. Prevents the spread of microorganisms. Facilitates error-free administration and saves time. Select the proper medication from the patient's medication drawer or unit stock. Read on, compare the label with the order. This prevents errors in medication. When all medications for one patient have been prepared, recheck the label. Checking of the label ensure safety and reduce error. Transport medications to the patient's bedside carefully and keep the medications in sight at all times. Ensure that the patient receives the medications at the correct time. Careful handling and close observation. Prevent accidental or deliberate disarrangement of medications. For maximum benefit, perform hand hygiene and put on PEI if indicated. Hand hygiene and PEI prevent the spread of microorganisms. PEI is required based on transmission precautions. Identify the patient. Check the name and identification number on the patient's identification band. Ask the patient to state his or her name if the patient cannot identify him or herself. Verify the patient's identification with a staff member who knows the patient. Ensures the right patient receives right medications and prevent errors. This is the most reliable method. Do not use the name on the door or over the bed. Provides an additional check to ensure that the medication is given to the right patient. Ask the patient about allergies. Explain the purpose and action of each medication to the patient, a prerequisite to administration of medications. Put on gloves. Gloves protect from potential contact with contaminants and body fluids. Have the patient sit up or lie with head tilted toward side of the affected ear. Protect the patient in bed with a waterproof pad. Have the patient support basin under the ear to receive the irrigating solution. Gravity causes the irrigating solution to flow from the ear to the basin. Cleanse external ear of any drainage with cotton ball or washcloth moistened with normal saline materials lodged on the pinner and at the meatus may be washed into the ear. Fill bulb syringe with warm solution. If an irrigating container is used, prime the tubing. Priming the tubing allows air to escape from the tubing. Air forced into the ear canal is noisy and therefore unpleasant for the patient. Straighten auditory canal by pulling cartilaginous portion of pinner up and back. For an adult, straightening the ear canal allows solution to reach all areas of the canal easily. Direct a steady, slow stream of solution against the roof of the auditory canal, using only enough force to remove secretions. Do not occlude the auditory canal with the irrigating nozzle. Allow solution to flow out unimpeded. Directing the solution at the roof of the canal helps prevent injury to the tympanic membrane. Continuous in and out flow of the irrigating solution helps to prevent pressure in the canal. When irrigation is complete, place a cotton ball loosely in auditory meatus and have patient lie on side of affected ear on a towel or absorbent pad. The cotton ball absorbs excess fluid and gravity allows the remaining solution in the canal to escape from the ear. Remove gloves. Assist the patient to a comfortable position. This ensures patient comfort. Remove additional pay if used. Perform hand hygiene. Removing pay properly reduces the risk for infection transmission and contamination of other items. Hand hygiene prevents the spread of microorganisms. Document the administration of the medication immediately after administration. Timely documentation helps to ensure patient safety. Evaluate the patient's response to the procedure. Return in 10 to 15 minutes and remove cotton ball and assess drainage. Evaluate the patient's response to medication within appropriate time frame. The patient needs to be evaluated for any adverse effects from the procedure. Drainage or pain may indicate injury to the tympanic membrane. The patient needs to be evaluated for therapeutic and adverse effects from the medication. Report to nursing personnel and document the administration of the medication immediately after administration, including date, time, dose, route of administration, and site of administration, specifically right, left, or both ears, on the record using the required format. Prompt recording avoids the possibility of accidentally repeating the administration of the drug. Document the procedure, site, the type of solution and volume used, and length of time irrigation performed. If the drug was refused or omitted, record this in the appropriate area on the medication record and notify the primary care provider. This varies the reason medication was omitted and ensures that the primary care provider is aware of the patient's condition. 4.3.3 Hearing aids. Hearing aid is an electronic device which is designed to make some sounds louder so that people with hearing impairment are able to listen, communicate and indulge in daily life activities to the fullest. Hearing aid is helpful in both quiet and noisy situations. Hearing aids are delicate instruments that need attention to ensure good operation. Before you put the hearing aid on your patient, you should give it a quick visual inspection and listening check. Here is a checklist you should follow every day. Hearing aid consists of the following. 1. Microphone, it receives sound. 2. Amplifier for increasing the loudness of sound. 3. Receiver for reproducing the sound and then transmitting it into the ear. 4. Battery to supply power to the unit. Hearing aids may differentiate with each other in order to assess different types of hearing loss respectively. Styles of hearing aid. There are 3 styles of hearing aids. 1. Behind the ear. 2. In the ear. 3. Canal. Behind the ear, it fits behind the ear and is enclosed in a small curved case and consists of a custom earpiece which designed in the shape of outer ear. It is best suited for children, since the only change required with respect to the age and size of child is the design of ear mold, which is required to be replaced accordingly. These are the most powerful hearing aid available, as these serve to be the best option for people with intense to profound hearing impairment. For some people, there are ear wax issues. Open fit hearing aid act as a better choice. In the ear, this style of hearing aid fits completely into the external ear and is used for mild to intense hearing loss. The electronic components are encased into a hard plastic case. Some aids have telecoils installed in them. The telecoil refers to a small magnetic coil which allows the aid user to receive sound with the help of the circuitry of hearing aid instead of the microphone. This enables easy telephonic conversation. It helps people hear in public ceremonies wherein there are special sound devices, known as induction loop system installed. Young children are not allowed to wear these hearing aids as these are required to be replaced as the ear grows in size. Canal aids, these fit into the ear canal and are available in two styles. This type of hearing aid is designed to fit in the size and shape of the user's ear canal. It is almost hidden in the ear canal and is not easily visible to the other person. Both the styles of canal aid are used for mild to intense hearing loss. These are a little difficult for the user to adjust or remove due to their small size. These aids do not have enough space for battery and telecoils, and as a result these are not advisable to children and people with severe to profound hear loss since their reduced size generally limits the power and volume. 4.3.4 Maintenance of hearing aid. 1. Battery issues. The first and foremost care required is caring for battery of the hearing aid. The inexperienced or new hearing aid user does not know about the battery life of hearing aid. The battery life depends upon the size or the storage capacity and the amount of energy drawn by the hearing aid. The larger the battery, the greater is the storage capacity. In case of dead batteries, advise to notice the working time period of the battery. Weak battery or dead battery may create a problem for the patient. Within a few weeks, patient gets to know the replacement cycle of the battery. To increase the life of the battery, it is often preferred to remove the battery from the aid. This enhances the battery life of the aid and creates a backup for battery. Battery life is often shortened due to the following reasons: defective battery with weakened charge, current is drawn in excess of what it should draw, or the battery is engaged in the device even when the hearing aid is not in use. 2. Earwax issues. Hearing aid may also fail due to wax blockage. The technical name of earwax is Saraman. Earwax is found to prevent flies and insects to step inside the opening. Hearing aid users must take special care of the earwax. The aid may slide in along with the wax accumulated in the ear. The fresher the wax, the more easily it can swift inside the receiver of the aid. Wax buildup can be stopped by regular cleaning of the ear canal by the physician by direct spray into the canal. The patient must adapt a daily habit of looking through the hearing aid, noticing any wax blockage in the aid. If present, this wax can be cleaned easily with the help of tools provided. 3. Mold and venting issues. Hearing aid may be discomfortable over a period of time. This discomfort is mainly due to the ill-fitted hearing aid. This often leads to severe ear pain. These fitting issues are caused because these might not be worn precisely. Sometimes, during the fabrication of the aid, minor size issue may occur leading to discomfort. Jaw movement is also the reason for pain in ear canal, as jaw movement is directly connected to the ear canal. 4. Moisture, corrosion, dirt and related intermittence. Moisture serves as an enemy to hearing aids or any other electronic devices. The use of dry cloth is advised to clean the accumulated wax or dirt in the hearing aid. Ear canals also produce moisture which affects the performance of hearing aid. To avoid moisture-related hearing aid problems, it is advisable not to wear hearing aid while taking shower, using a bathtub, steam while using hair dryer, vaporizer or hairspray etc. Avoid dropping hearing aid if there is ear pain, drainage, or infection, or if your ear mold doesn't fit properly or is uncomfortable. Contact your healthcare provider.
4.4 Skin care. The skin, or the integumentary system, is the body's largest organ. It comprises 15% of the total body weight, has an area of approximately 7,600 square centimeters and receives 1/3 of circulating blood volume. In the average adult. 4.4.1 Principles of skin care. Assess the patient's skin daily. Cleanse the skin whenever needed, for example, when soiled, using a mild pH-balanced cleanser. Avoid using soap and hot water. Avoid excessive friction and scrubbing. Minimize skin exposure to moisture, incontinence, Wound leakage. Use a skin barrier product, if necessary. Use emollients. Measures for personal cleanliness and grooming that promote physical and psychological well-being are called personal hygiene. People who are well oriented are responsible for their own hygiene. Illness, hospitalization, and institutionalization generally require modifications in hygiene practices. In these situations, the patient need help to continue sound hygiene practices and required guidance to the patient and family members. Personal hygiene includes interventions to care for a person's skin. Purpose of skin can to avoid wound formation, a disruption in the normal integrity and function of the skin and underlying tissues is called a wound. This disruption creates a potentially dangerous and possibly life-threatening situation. To prevent wound complications, the patient is at risk for wound complications such as infection, hemorrhage, dehiscence, and evisceration. For educate the risk of generalized illness. These complications increase the risk for generalized illness and death. Lengthen the time needs healthcare interventions and add to healthcare costs. To prevent pressure ulcers. Pressure ulcers, a wound caused by unrelieved pressure that results in damage to underlying tissue, are one of the most common skin and tissue disruptions and are costly in terms of healthcare expenditures. To maintain skin integrity. Maintaining skin integrity is a complex process. Skin has to perform many different functions. Functioning of skin. Having a good understanding for the layers of the skin and the functions of normal skin is important to recognize risk factor for poor skin integrity and undertake action to prevent skin breakdown or to improve wound healing outcomes. Let us discuss the functions of skin as follows. Function of the skin and explanation. Protection. The skin provides a covering that is designed to protect us from damage or injury. Temperature control, thermoregulation, sweat evaporates and cools the skin. Blood vessels also dilate and constrict to prevent heat loss and maintain a stable body temperature. Sensation and communication. Nerve ending and receptors are found in the skin, and these help us to respond to touch, pain, heat or cold. Metabolism. The skin helps us to metabolize vitamin D through exposure of the skin to sunlight. Elimination. The skin helps us to eliminate waste through its function of excretion and secretion. 4.4.2 Prevention and care of decubitus ulcer. Pressure sore. Bed sore. As we have learned that we should prevent pressure sore, but if still pressure sore are visible in patient, you have to care for same. Following section of this unit will discuss the prevention and care of decubitus ulcer. Pressure sore. Bed sore. Definition. Decubitus ulcer or bed sore or pressure sore is an ulcerated sloughed area of tissue resulting from pressure, slowing of circulation and causing death of cells, also called decubity. Common site. This may happen more frequently over the bony prominences of the body where there is no rich supply of blood for nourishment and also where there is a thin layer of skin. When the patient is supine position, the pressure point are nape of the neck, back of the head, occiput, scapula, sacral region, most common area, elbows and heels. When patient is in side-lying position, pressure points are ears, acromion process of the shoulder, ribs, iliac crest, greater trochanter of the hips, medial and lateral condyles of the knee, malleolus of the ankle joint. When patient is in prone position, pressure points are back of the ears and cheek. Acromion process, knees and toes. Other area that should be watched carefully are between the folds of flesh, such as breasts in females and genitalia in males. The skin of patients who are very thin or rhopsis may break down quickly. 4.4.3 Causes of bed sore. Predisposing causes which may lead to bed sore formation are as follows. Impaired circulation, which is the main cause due to interference in circulation, e.g., people with multiple fractures. Lowered vitality due to disease, e.g., typhoid, and due to old age and starvation. Emaciation, thinness. Edema. Deficient nerve supply. Direct or immediate causes are as follows. Pressure, form lying in one position for a long time causing pressure due to constant contact with bed. Lack of cleanliness, directly act as an agent. Friction, rough surfaces, patches, seams or wrinkles on the bed linen or garments or other foreign bodies like orange peels, breadcrumbs, rice and food particles, movement of the patients, rubbing off to skin, surfaces together, etc. can cause friction on skin. Moisture, resulting from perspiration, urine, feces and vaginal discharges irritate the skin. Heat is another cause for bed sore due to sameness of position or keeping the patient directly on rubber sheets. Presence of pathogenic organism, lack of cleanliness accumulate pathogenic organisms and cause infection on the skin. 4.4.4 Type of patients most susceptible to bed sore. Very thin, very fat and very old people. Persons for whom movement is difficult, as one with multiple fracture. Person with long-wasting diseases such as typhoid, because body tissues became poorly nourished. Person with paralysis. Patients who have incontinence of urine and motion. Unconscious patients. Patients with anemia, cancer and diabetes and other whose circulation is poor because of age, heart disease, etc. Obese patients or oedematous patients, especially edema of the sacrum and buttocks. Acutely ill patients whose general condition is very poor and rapidly deteriorating. Elderly patients who move very little in the bed. Sedated patients who do not move in bed frequently. Neurologic patients with lack of sensation in bony prominences. Surgical patients with limited movements in bed. Patients with hyperpyrexia who sweat profusely. Patients with excessive discharge and drainage from wounds. Chronic conditions like diabetes who are in bed for a long time. Any bed patients who are neglected and getting poor nursing care. Malnourished patients or patients with deficiency diseases. 4.4.5 Prevention of bed sore. Prevention of bed sore is the responsibility of the nurse and other healthcare providers like you as GDA. The appearance of a bed sore is a mark of poor nursing care. The principles of prevention is the removal of the cause, identify the patients who are particularly prone to develop bed sore is important. Absolute cleanliness. 1. Keep patients clean by daily sponging. Careful back care twice a day or every 4 hours or often if necessary, and daily observation of bedridden patients. 2. Keep the bed linen clean and dry and free from wrinkles and crumbs. 3. Wash the back with warm water to stimulate circulation. Rub with methylated spirit for cooling, refreshing and to toughen the skin. 4. Massage back thoroughly to stimulate circulation. 5. If the skin is dry and in danger of cracking, use oil instead of spirit. 6. Teach the patient and relatives the hygienic care of the skin. Prevent moisture. 1. Keep the patient dry always. If a patient perspires profusely or is incontinent, change the linen frequently and wash the patient well. Washing with a soda bicarb solution neutralizes the acid irritation of urine and feces. Keep skin dry by use of talcum powder. 2. Protect the skin from urine and feces by rubbing on an oily ointment, such as castor oil or zinc ointment. 3. The use of retention catheter eliminates wetting with urine. Relief of pressure. 1. Change the patient's position frequently, at least once in 2 hours or as often as necessary, and encourages the patient to move in bed as far as possible. 2. Careful use of bedpan and padding the edge of the bedpan to prevent undue pressure on susceptible areas. Never allow the patient to remain on the bedpan too long. 3. Use air rings or cotton rings to remove pressure on susceptible sites. 4. Use an air mattress or rubber sponge mattress for every susceptible patients to equalize the support to all parts of the body. Use extra pillows. Water mattress is good for such patients. Eliminate friction. 1. Do not use chipped bedpan or drag bedpan from under the patient without lifting him. Pad the chipped edge of the bedpan if it has to be used. 2. Splints when used should be well padded, prevent friction resulting from plaster casts by careful use of cotton or other suitable material. 3. Prevent friction between the skin surface by careful drying of the part and application of the talcum powder. Pad and bandage the limbs that are being constantly rubbed back and forth or against each other. 4. Bed cradles may be used to remove friction due to bed clothes. 5. Keep the bed linen and mackintosh free from wrinkles. 6. Build up the body resistance by good nutrition. 7. Observe carefully for the presence of any reddened areas or skin abrasions and report promptly, and see the appropriate measures are taken to prevent progress of formation of the ulcer. 4.4.6 Symptoms of bed sore. If the patient is conscious, he may experience and complain discomfort on pressure sore developing area. But before that, the nurse should observe the following early symptoms. Remember that developing bed sore is a discredit to the healthcare workers and the hospital. Early symptoms: heat, redness, tenderness, discomfort and smarting of the affected area. If pressure is not relieved, the tissues become congested. This congestion makes the part blue or mottles like a bruise. It is also cold and insensitive. If the pressure is not immediately relieved and normal circulation restored, gangrene may result. The formation of true bed sore is decubitus ulcer comes with the breaking of the skin, the death of tissues, formation of slough which later separates, forming an ulcer. 4.4.7 Treatment of bed sore. Routine preventive care is carried out during the bed bath daily and after toilets of the patients. Requisites needed and method used to attend. Pressure areas will be same as for the care of skin. Curative treatment of pressure sores. Treatment may differ, but general principles remain the same. Report any symptom. If skin is broken or abraded or red, note it promptly to the sister in change so that step may be taken to prevent further damage. Keep the patient off her back or off the area where the sore is, if it is possible to do so. Keep the area dry and clean, protect the wound with surgical dressing. If the skin is broken, strict aseptic technique must be carried out in taking care of the part. The surrounding area should be given routine preventive treatment as often as necessary. The wound is usually cleansed with an antiseptic solution as ordered by doctor after cleaning the wound thoroughly. Any reaction to penicillin should be ascertained before applying. When slough is present, clean the area thoroughly twice a day with hydrogen peroxide and sterile water. Then clean with sterile boric lotion or normal saline and apply hot wet dressing or as ordered by the doctor. If slough is removed by the doctor, stimulate healing by using some preparation as penicillin cream, powder, sulfanilamide powder, etc. Other treatments used are exposure to sunlight or ultraviolet light and vitamin therapy, administration of vitamins. Improve the general health of the patient by nourishing food in the possible method. 4.5 Nail care. Foot care. The nails are an accessory structure of skin composed of epithelial tissue. Healthy nail beds are pink, convex and evenly curved. With certain pathological conditions and to some extent with aging, the nails become rigid and areas become concave. Hygienic care includes keeping the nail clean and trimmed. Purpose of nail care. Foot care. To keep the nail, hand and foot clean. To teach the client proper way to insect all surface of foot and hands for any sign of infection, lesion and dryness. Trim nail to prevent injury and avoid accumulation of dirt and microorganisms underneath. Articles required for nail care. Foot care. Wash basin, towel, face and bath towel, nail cutter and file, warm water, soap in soap dish, body lotion, clean disposable gloves, paper bag, kidney tray, bowel with cotton swabs, antiseptic solution, Macintosh. Guidelines, action and rationale. Inspect all surface of toes, feet, fingers, sole, heel and space between fingers, early identification of any irritation. Assess color, temperature, circulation and adequacy of pulse, early management of complications, if any. Observe the walking pattern. If possible, painful disorder may change the walking pattern. If female client ask whether they are using nail polish and polish remover frequently, chemical can cause dryness. Assess type of footwear they are wearing. Type of footwear may cause infection and ulceration. Identify risk clients for foot and nail disorder. Older client, diabetic client, heart and renal disorder, cerebrovascular accident and stroke clients, poor vision and musculoskeletal disorders results, nail and foot problems, vascular changes due to diabetic and other disorders may reduce blood flow, hence chances of skin breakdown and infection is very high. Altered gait pattern cause friction and pressure on feet. Assess type of home remedies they are taking for existing problem. Over the counter medication, these medication may cause infection and breakage of skin integrity. Assess client's ability to take care of their foot and nail as well. The knowledge to find out the ability of self-care and need for health care. Explain the procedure including need for soaking several minutes. In case of unconscious, soak nails. Using wet cotton swabs helps to soften the nails and easy cutting. Extended soaking may cause further damage in case of DM. Wash hands and arrange articles near to the client, prevent delay in delivering care. Maintain privacy and assist in comfortable position, comfort and ease the procedure. Take warm water in the basin. TEM 43-44 OC, soften tissue, reduce inflation, promote circulation and prevent burns. Allow client to be comfortable. Position and help him to soak his feet for 10-20 mts is cleaning and remove dead cells. Cut the toenails straight across. Using nail clipper, shape with file. Wipe fingernails using antiseptic solution to prevent splitting of nail margins. And sharp nail margin may cause irritation to the lateral margins and avoid chances of ingrown nails. Put on gloves and scrub calloused area of feet with wash. Clothes, remove feet from the basin and dry thoroughly, prevent infection and friction helps. To remove dead skin, apply lotion on the feet and hands. Assist client back to bed and into comfortable position, lubricate and keep the skin moisture. Dismantle and dispose all articles. Remove gloves, wash hands, reduce infection. Record including your observation. Report if any infection or break-in. The continuity of the skin to nursing officer to prevent further complications. 4.6 Observation, identification, listing, and reporting of unusual findings. As a GDA, when you provide skin care procedure like back care or foot care, etc., you also may observe the patient for other unusual finding which you need to list and report to nursing officer of respective patient. The following section will help you in identification and listing of unusual findings follows. The integumentary system includes the skin, hair, nails, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands. Assessment of the skin, hair, and nails provides information about the nutritional and hydration status and overall health of the patient and also information associated with certain systemic diseases, infection, immobility, excessive sun exposure, and allergic reactions. For individuals with dark skin tones, you have to conduct assessment with natural light rather than artificial lighting. Cyanosis can be assessed in darker individuals by examining the oral mucosa, the lips, nail beds, and the conjunctiva. Jaundice is assessed by observing the sclera of the eyes, the palms of the hands, and soles of the feet for a yellowish discoloration. In a dehydrated patient, skin is dry, loose, and wrinkled. Elevated body temperature may result in increased perspiration. Decreased elasticity may be present in dehydrated patients. Inspect skin for vascularity, bleeding, or bruising. Inspect the skin for lesions. Note bruises, scratches, cuts, insect bites, and wounds. If present, note size, shape, color, exudates, and distribution pattern. Assess for skin turgor by gently pinching the skin under the clavicle. Palpate for oedema, which is characterized by swelling with taut and shiny skin over the oedematous area. If lesions are present, put on gloves and palpate the lesion. Fingernails provide protection to the fingertips, enhance sensation, and allow small objects to be grasped. Nail condition provides information about underlying illness and oxygenation status. Nails are normally convex and the cuticle is pink and intact. The angle of attachment of the nail is 160 degrees. Clubbing is present when the angle of the nail base exceeds 180 degrees. Always examine the nails and feet for intactness and cleanliness. Assess capillary refill and the contour of the nail bed. Observe the nail base for redness, swelling, bleeding, discharge and tenderness. Examine the feet for cleanliness and intactness of skin and note any swelling, inflammation, lesion, tenderness, and any orthopedic problems. Carefully examine the skin between the toes. Gather information about the patient's normal nail and foot care practices, including type of footwear worn and history nail and foot problems and their treatments. Foot problems are common in diabetic and peripheral vascular diseases. Try to identify any variables known to cause foot and nail problems, such as deficient self-care abilities, vascular diseases, arthritis, history of biting nails, improper trimming method, frequent or prolonged exposure to chemicals or water, trauma, ill-fitting shoes or obesity. 4.7 Standard precautions and protocols for shaving. Shaving is done to remove unwanted hair from the body. Removal of unwanted hair can be accomplished in many ways. A safety razor is used with warm water, gel, soap, or shaving cream. When using a safety razor, it is easy to cut the skin, causing bleeding. Because people with certain medical disorders or who are taking certain medications can bleed excessively if they are cut. Check the person's care plan or ask the nursing officer before assisting a person to shave with a safety razor. For people with conditions that can cause them to bleed excessively, an electric razor is usually preferred. Using a safety or an electric razor. Following are the considerations to be taken before beginning with the use of safety and electric razor. 1. Begin with the shaving procedure only when it is mentioned in his personal hygiene manual by the supervising nurse. 2. Try to use patient's personal electric shaver or safety razor only. 3. Safety razors are not to be used for patients who are prone to bleed, who are taking blood-thinning medicines, or have poor circulation. 4. When patient doesn't have his personal razor, prefer using one-time disposable safety razors and dispose off properly after use. 5. Conditions of safety razors need to be observed for any sort of rust, nicks, cracks, or chips. 6. For regions around oxygen, avoid the use of electric razors. Equipment. 1. Ball of very warm water. 2. Shaving cream, optional. 3. Safety razor or electric razor. 4. Face towels. 5. Tissues. 6. A mirror. 7. Aftershave lotion, if required. 8. Face powder, if required. 9. Cloth for washing. 10. Gloves and apron for safety. Procedure. 1. Stick to standard precautions. 2. Let the patient know the procedure. 3. Let the patient sit in comforting position. 4. Let sufficient amount of light focus on patient's face, not eyes. 5. Using a safety razor. A. Position the face towel around patient's chin. B. Soften beard with warm water using a dampened cloth. C. Apply shaving cream on the face. In case shaving cream is not being used, use soap and make a good heavy lather. D. Hold the skin tight with one hand and gently shave with other hand in the direction of hair growth. E. Begin with the sides and gently move downwards over the cheek. F. Continue carefully towards the rest of the facial part. G. Gradually work upwards on the neck, under the chin. H. While shaving, keep rinsing the razor often. I. Special care is to be taken for areas under the nose and around the lips. J. Wash away the excess shaving cream after finishing and apply aftershave lotion or powder as preferred by the patient. 6. Using an electric razor. An electric razor lifts the hair away from the skin before slicing it off with the blade. Thus, an electric razor carries a lower risk of cutting or nicking the skin, and is preferred for people with blood clotting disorders and those who are taking medications that affect the blood's ability to clot. Applying a pre-shave lotion can help to soften their hairs and may result in a smoother shave when using an electric razor. A. Shave with even movements in a back and forth motion using an electric razor. B. Shave in the direction of hair growth if the razor is a fold one. C. Use aftershave lotion or powder as preferred by the patient. 7. Clean the used equipment and place it in the desired place. 8. Disposable razors need to be disposed of properly. Electric razors are required to be cleaned by removing the head of the razor, brushing away all the whiskers and recapping the head of razor. 9. Dispose of the soiled things in appropriate manner. Aftercare. 1. Document the procedure followed and patient's tolerance in his record manual. 2. Write down all the standard precautions followed during the procedure. 3. Report any changes seen in patient's condition. 4.8 Let us sum up. In this unit you have learned about the importance of eye care and ear care, how to assist and administer medications in the ear and eye. You have also learned about how to irrigate ear and eye as well as the steps of the procedure and precautions. Foot problems are common in diabetic and peripheral vascular diseases. Decubitus ulcer or bed sore or pressure sore is an ulcerated sloughed area of tissue resulting from pressure, slowing of circulation and causing death of cells, also called decubity. Prevention of bed sore for bedridden patient is an important aspect. Bed sore may occur frequently over the bony prominences of the body where there is no rich supply of blood for nourishment and also where there is a thin layer of skin. For people with certain medical disorders or who are taking certain medications can bleed excessively if they are cut. An electric razor is usually preferred for such clients. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.